Rachel.
How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good overall. There's so many things happening in here to keep track of. How about yourself? How are you doing?
I am feeling a little bit weird because we're here to talk about Babylon's ashes.
Babylon 5's ashes. They scattered those. I know that they blew it up at the end. Spoiler alert for Babylon 5. It's the last of the Babylon stations. You were warned. No.
No.
Babylon's ashes.
I didn't say Babylon 5.
Oh, Babylon, the Damien Chazelle film. The one that kind of torched his credibility. That film? Is that what we're talking about? Rachel? Why are you looking at me lovingly and longingly?
Yeah, that's what that is. That's the love look. This is the love finger, right?
Depends where you use it. Oh, we're back, baby. Talking about The Expanse. That is right. We have read through another book of The Expanse, and wow. Which book was it? The sixth one, which, as you said, was called Babylon's Ashes, and
But I was also saying before you jammed that banter in there, that it's feeling a little bit weird because it's another ending of sorts with The Expanse for us, because this is the last book that was adapted.
we don't know where things go beyond this part of the story. The show didn't go there. Well, we know some parts, because there are some parts of the book that were in the show, and then there's other things that were in the show that's not from this book at all, and you have to assume it's from later stuff. Laconia, all of the Laconia stuff in season 6 feels even more flimsy, because it's not even in this book.
Yeah.
So I can't even, we knew that was a short story that was adapted into the show, but it makes it even more baffling.
We felt it in it as well, and the fact that
Truly
there's
mind-boggling.
basically no connections whatsoever.
It's like that. It's
Laconia
almost...
gets mentioned as a place, and we
go there. No, we never physically go there. We get them as players of the story, but they aren't in the story, if you know what I mean. But before we go down that rabbit hole, Rachel, how about you remind us all about the Yum Yum moment from Star Trek Discovery?
Why do I have to do that?
Because people may not know why we're called Yum Yum.
We're called Yum Yum because of Star Trek Discovery. You got obsessed with a fucking ridiculous line that was said, and now our entire podcast and a huge chunk of our lives revolve around that and regurgitating that to the point where I can't just organically hear the phrase Yum Yum anymore.
That's the power of art.
I can't. I had somebody use yum yum as we're getting food, it's going to be yum yum. And I sent back the yum yum gif by default and really pissed somebody off because they hate Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah, but they love that moment, right? We talk about the yum yum in the context of The Expanse through what was sexy and horny. We don't always do it with these books, but I do want to ask, with Babylon's Ashes, was there any horny moments, any sexy things that leapt off the pages to you in this? Anything in the recall of your mind?
No, nothing leaps to mind. There's
a polycule.
People have sex. And there's sexual aspects to it. But, they're in the middle of a war, so there isn't a lot of Ooh la la horniness.
Unless your name is spelled Alex. Alex had some of that exact stuff going on. It didn't get to actual intercourse, but there was a flirtiness. There was a fun there. There was a
we didn't get the description of a sex scene with Alex.
That's so
unfortunate. But we know that he got laid a bunch.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we didn't get full descriptions of sex with him. Where was his embarrassed erection? Like we got with Holden in the earlier books.
Not everybody can have one of those.
He wouldn't have an embarrassed erection.
He would be proud of it.
Oh, of course. Have you met Alex? He's a very proud character. But I have here the description from Goodreads of Babylon's Ashes, which is the 6th book of the Expanse series. And here's how they tell the story of Babylon's Ashes. A revolution brewing for generations has begun in fire. It will end in blood. The Free Navy, a violent group of belters in black market military ships, has crippled the Earth and begun a campaign of piracy and violence among the outer planets. The colony ships heading for the 1,000 new worlds on the far side of the alien ring gates are easy prey, and no single navy remains strong enough to protect them. James Holden and his crew know the strengths and weaknesses of this new force better than anyone. Outnumbered and outgunned, the embattled remnants of the old political powers call on the Rocinante for a desperate mission to reach Medina Station at the heart of the Gate network. But the new alliances are as flawed as the old, and the struggle for power has only just begun. As chaos grows, an alien mystery deepens. Pirate fleets, mutiny, and betrayal may be the least of the Rocinante's problems. And in the uncanny spaces past the ring gates, the choices of a few damaged and desperate people may determine the fate of more than just humanity. That's a lot. That's a lot to take in.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to say straight up top, this book has so many pieces, so many characters, so many chapters, and yet I honestly took this away as just a really, really long epilogue to the 5th book. Like, this does have that epilogue, like we're ending the story here type feel.
Last part of the trilogy, definitely.
Yeah, but I'm specifically saying this felt like just more of the 5th book. Just longer and more of it, and now here's more of the characters. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it did very much leap to my mind, because in comparison to some of the other books that had both the self-contained nature and following up on what previously happened, this one was more directly tied in with the book that came before it. It's inseparable to me.
Yeah, it's very much interlocked.
While the 3rd book obviously was interlocked with the others, but you could read that on its own and pretty much get a good sense of the scale and scope and situation at play here and still be entertained by reading it. This is not one of those. This is like you have to have very much read that 5th book. But what did you think about Babylon's Ashes? As you said, this was the last one adapted, so there was a lot in our minds when we started this.
I really enjoyed this book. I appreciate where we are with all of our characters, and even the introductions of new POVs continue to feel fresh and interesting and welcome. It's not like, oh, no, I want to get back to that, or, oh, I don't care about new people. I don't have space for them in my head or my heart. It's just like, ooh, this is exciting.
Interesting. I kind of am on the opposite end of this here. I may, it was too much, too scattered, too many characters, too many POVs, not enough time in my mind to really latch on to anything in particular. But also there was, because this is wrapping up so many of the threads. It's bringing characters back that we love and cherish and hold dear, and they're coming back in ways that feel very appropriate to them, or ones that we only got briefly in the past, and now they're getting the time and the spotlight, as well as diving in to the political landscape of this universe, and really getting into the minutia. So there's a lot of things here that cater to me, but so much of it felt at a distance in a lot of ways. Like we have chapters to certain characters, and then when you look at it, it's like, oh, they only got like two or three chapters, and it felt like they were going to have more. But then the people who did have more, well, you say, well, they deserved to have that many chapters, but it's very different to the other books. I'll give it that.
And like it's not easy to balance all of those things that it has going on, and it feels like they've built up a solid amount of trust in me as a reader over the course of these 5 previous books, and have continued to earn and build on that trust in this 6th book as well.
The voice of the writing has developed, has changed, has matured in a lot of ways. This doesn't feel juvenile like we did with the first 2, maybe 3 books, where there was a lot of, why are you focusing on that?
And it's
why
nice
are you saying it like
they
that?
They are focusing in on how the characters have aged. So we feel that sense of time. So it's nice to have that growing sense of maturity and sort of world weariness in the writing, as well as that being said of the characters.
You're much more of a reader than I am, specifically of series of books, rather than myself. I like to read kind of more one and done books if I am reading. But I want to get your thoughts on this. Of I am actively seeing them grow up as writers. Like each book is huge strides in quality, and them being able to articulate the ideas in their head and the themes and messages. When I read a series of books so often from like well-established authors, like when I've read a Frank Herbert book, I read Dune, and I read Dune Messiah, and I read Children of Dune, it's pretty much locked in.
Yeah,
it's set in stone.
Their voice is established. And I feel like there's an extra level to appreciate with this, because it is the 2 writers, and the fact that they've formed such a cohesive voice between the 2 of them. Like, I no longer get that feeling of this was clearly written by one author and this one was written by the other. Like, I don't have that as clearly as I did in the first couple of books, which is another way that they've developed as writers.
And what is it like on your end to go through a series of books and see the growth of the writing? Because do you have that with other book series that you've read, or anything in particular?
If it's like the kind of bad that this one was, I won't continue with the series. Because unless like somebody's like pushing really hard for me to do like a companion read, or like they've read it and they think that I'll really enjoy them all, like then I'll push through. But if it's like meant to be a good book and the first one doesn't capture me, I usually won't bother with the rest. If it's trash, yeah, I'm like, I signed up for this to be shit. I'm not going to complain about the writing style being subpar unless it's trying to pretend like it's not trash.
I just wanted to muse on this for a moment, because this is the first of the books where I've really felt their expertise or their experiences, rather, in working in the television world has started to splash back onto the books. Like, we've had moments where it's like, oh, the characters now feel more like they did in the show. We've had that, especially with Amos, for example, where Amos feels a lot more like he does in the show as these books go along. But to me, the way that the story is structured, the way that we're flicking around, very much feels like how the show is, where you have all of these episodes and you have all of these characters that you have to keep track of. Like, where's Christian at? Where's Prax? Where's this, and this? And in the other books, they would omit characters if we didn't need to have them. While in a TV show, you have actors on contract, you have to use them. And I just think that it is noticeable that at this point they have started to work in the different medium of writing their own universe, and it's now shaped how the narrative is told. That's at least my takeaway.
Yeah, I feel like the constraints of the show didn't work with this book as well as some of the others did. And because of that, there's this sense that it's rushed and it's trying to pack things in so that it's like, but see, we can do all of these other things as well. It's not the end of things. It's just the beginning. And it felt like they'd already gotten dumped and they were pleading for another chance. So you weren't as interested in things because it was trying too hard. And it was rushing things and skipping over other things. Whereas...
and introducing stuff.
Yeah. The previous seasons, like even in the sense of their adaptations as well, felt methodical in the choices that they were making and choosing the parts and the ways to present things so that it was the best story of that story for television.
There was a definite sense in some of the other books that they had to zhuzh it up for TV. The fourth book can't just be adapted for television the way it is, because that's not interesting. But also there were other times where the TV show simplified things in a way that made sense. Like, let's just have Drummer be this amalgamation of all these characters along the way. So that way, when we get to where her story is in the version of Babylon's Ashes, the show, it feels much more cathartic than with Michio Pa, who I don't know for jack shit. I knew her in the third book briefly. She disappeared, and then she comes back here.
I still love that choice of the way that they've weaved together different parts of different characters to create Drummer.
Yeah.
It's so much stronger.
But then you come to the sixth season and it's compromised, it's trying to do so many things. But then when you read the sixth book, as much as I am saying there's a lot to keep focus on and there's too many characters and there's too many plot lines, it's still kept relatively simple. They still keep it simple, stupid. It's a war story. There's a good guy, there's a bad guy. There are the people caught between. You have a clear objective that that the characters are working towards on both sides, and that's it. And you get the promises and teasing of bigger picture, lore stuff at play with the aliens and the Laconians and all of that, but they're kept at a distance in the background because the real story is the tug of war between Marco and Holden. That's where we're at, and everyone else is having to see which side they fall on, because you can't be in the middle.
No.
You have to be on one or the other.
Yep.
There's no fucking around. And that's why some of my favorite chapters of this book were of the characters who were on the wrong side. I loved pretty much most of the chapters on Marco's side, because most of the characters we are POVs of, outside of Marco himself, feel trapped to be there, are disillusioned, or realize the error of their ways and have to leave. We don't really get many people who genuinely believe in the Free Navy or any of Marco's rhetoric, because Marco doesn't believe it. So why do any of them?
That was really fun to like get that perspective on those issues as well, because that's something that has been building momentum over the course of all of the books, really. And it's interesting how it started out with the grey, and now it's black and white.
Yeah, the villainous side, or the Free Navy side of the drama was just also fun, because we've had for all of these books a lot of attention to detail to Belter culture, to Belter politics, and how it isn't just one group. They're not like a society where everyone wears the same type of hat. Everyone has different beliefs, different ways of going about stuff. And now here comes Marco trying to rally them and unify them together and put them under his banner, his flag. And what does that actually look like? And what does resistance against that look like? I love that. That was really rewarding, because we've been told, well, Earth tried to do this in the past, and look, it didn't work out. But now here's someone from within trying to do it.
And how does that work differently? And how does it kind of end up the same?
What do you want to talk about? What do you want to sink your teeth into with Babylon's Ashes?
Who should we start with? Oh, Bobby. Bobby's a part of the fucking crew.
She's the leader of the team for a good portion of the book, much to Holden's dismay.
Yeah, and I feel like her joining the Rosie works so much better in the book. So much better.
Oh, yeah. I think we just like Bobby in the books more.
Book Bobby's better. Like, people told us that when we were watching the show, and we were like, we'll see. And now I agree. I feel like at this point I have earned an informed opinion about Book Bobby, as well as like it's continued to be the case that we like Book Bobby more. And her integration into the crew and the way that works is a lot of fun. And I feel like I get to enjoy this stage of Book Bobby more, weirdly, after having watched that one ship where it's just like Bobby and Amos fighting.
Yeah.
Like, I was thinking back to that one ship quite a bit in this season, but obviously because of the context, but also because of the way that expresses a dynamic that I feel like is more solidified in the book than it is in the show, because the show is trying to do so much so quickly.
I like her friendship / relationship / whatever this is with Alex, because it isn't so clear. I like that they are friends, but they clearly know that there's something more there, but they also don't want to taint it, but also
it's like
they're immature people, but also
they won't, but they could.
They're both from different backgrounds, yet similar backgrounds. It just feels very real to me.
Yeah.
It feels like one of the most true relationships of these books.
Yeah, because it isn't just one thing. And so often in fiction, if there is a spark or connection that is romantic and or sexual, it is either acted upon and works out, the ways that could possibly work out, or it fuels resentment.
It causes drama.
And the fact that, like, they have this thing and they aren't pursuing it, but they both acknowledge it, and it not causing tension makes it so much more interesting to me.
And the tension it does cause or bring is so minor that it doesn't feel ham-fisted.
It's not just like, oh my god, that's about to explode, because that would be one of the things that I've described as being like the default.
Because there's many moments where Bobby is calling the shot or in a moment of danger and Alex is worried, but then he shows the same amount of worry in the exact same situation for Holden, for Naomi, for Amos, for Clarissa. Like, it is as equal, but there is a closer connection there between him and Bobby.
It feels like. It kind of feels.
Yes?
What? I'm sorry, but I'm just like, I was like, this analogy works, but it also feels icky. But it kind of feels like if the situation was, it's just like, since like the Rossi crew operates like as a family, right? He never now, like, Alex would never consider sleeping with Naomi, not only because she's with Holden, but because she's family.
Yes. It's not like Amos, who would fuck her if she asked.
Yes. Different.
I would fuck if she let me, yeah.
Different people, right? Because Alex is very much like the family unit. So it's just kind of like Bobby is coming into the family, but at the moment she's distant family. So it's just like having a crush on a fourth cousin. It's just like, it's like, wouldn't go there.
I do think there is something about the age difference between the two of them that does play a factor into.
Oh yeah, that does too.
The way that, but it's these differences. The fact that they are both Martians, but they both view being a Martian as different things. The fact that they both were in the military, but in different parts of it, and so they interact differently. But there's a commonality there. But Bobby was fun. I liked her being the boss because she's no nonsense. She looks at things in a very specific way that makes a lot of sense. I liked when she had to guide Holden around into his political nonsense, and she doesn't give a fuck about that. Like, she has to be the representative of Mars in these moments.
She resents being forced into that role, and you deeply understand why she has that frustration because of who she is. But for me, it's more important because of what she's experienced.
And you pair her nicely with characters throughout the book where it's Naomi and her have a nice friendship, and they have moments where they bond, but Naomi has to play into some of the things that work on Bobby to get Bobby to do things that she needs Bobby to do that she can't just ask directly because they can't. I think because Bobby does have these walls up.
What you just said highlights a real strength in this book for me, which is that because there are so many things going on and so many characters, right? We don't have this solid sense of this is a main character, this is a secondary character, this is a third tier character, right? Because all of these characters in their POV are the central character.
Kind of.
Like a lot of the time. Not all of them, but the majority of characters, when we are in their shoes, we are seeing their story, their part of the story, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But the sort of difference that there is between these perspectives, right? Because we spend limited time with some, more with others, is how they are stacked and how they are connected. We don't get a lot of time in Bobby's shoes.
No.
But we see a lot of Bobby from the outside, and then some from the inside. So it's the way that they are pairing and overlaying information across chapters as well that creates a stronger piece of work and a greater sense of cohesion across the book as well.
Yeah.
Because that's something that we also felt in the first couple of books in particular of, okay, now we're doing this and we're doing this, even though it's just like both of these chapters are on the Rossi or like in the same place dealing with the same things.
This book didn't do what the third did a lot, which is would have the same scene play out, but from the other person's perspective, which does nail down the thing you're talking about as well in a lot of ways. This does have a lot of what you're tapping into, where these characters are covered enough from other characters' point of views, where maybe we don't have as many Alex chapters as you would expect. When you see one pop up, you go, oh, I guess we're going to have more. No, he only has 2 in the book or 3 in the book.
It
and
feels like they have what they need.
And
they're not indulging in things that they want to see as writers.
And when a character has less, it actually feels more impactful because Clarissa Mao is treated like this ghostly entity throughout the entire book because that's how Holden feels about her. And we get like one moment from her perspective, and it still feels like she's this specter because she feels both a part of the team and outside of it. And because she's always referenced offhandedly in every other chapter, in everyone else's perspective, even though she's really important in the story and she's an important character in the universe, but that nails down the fact that everyone treats her so like matter-of-factly, but also with a side eye, feeds into Holden's perspective all the more because he feels conflicted throughout the entire book that she's been normalized, that she's a part of the crew, that she exists, and that he's supposed to do what with that? Forgive her? Or do I forgive her? Does that mean I condone her? All of these things.
Yeah, but that...
Does she secretly have a plan up her sleeve?
Yeah,
I don't know. These are the things that work by having...
That distrust doesn't go away. She isn't absolved of everything. But that doesn't prohibit her from becoming a part of the crew. And that is a part of what happens in this book. And it happens so slowly and gently. And like it's solidifying what was in the previous book. But that moment where Holden without question assumes that Clarissa is going to continue to be with them, and that she's just a part of the crew now.
That she can step up to where Amos is.
Yeah, not because of Amos, but because of who she is. And, like, Holden not realizing that that's what he's done and how impactful that is to her. And her wanting to hide how much it does mean to her in that moment. That scene means so much, and it does it in all of these ways where it's relying on the things before, and you're like, oh, I didn't even fully realize that this was the moment that it was leading up to, but now that we're here, it feels like all of these steps were in place.
It makes me appreciate the third book's choice of having her be someone we told the story from. Getting into her point of view, her mind, her thoughts. Because they so thoroughly got you in there that in the preceding, like in the books that follow after, we aren't in her head, really. But we never question who Clarissa is and how she's changed from what she did initially in the story when she was introduced as this villainous force who's after Holden. But by the end of the third book, we, the reader, have seen how that fucked her and how it made her change and like how she regretted all of that. So when we get the 5th book and we get these almost childlike points of view on her from Amos, these views to this book where either everyone is just fine with her or they are suspicious of her, we never lose track of who she is and how she's progressed as a character through these 3 books.
And I find her so interesting as a character in this story compared to what she is in the show. Because I feel like the show added a lot more to how traumatized she is from her experience in prison.
Yeah, but...
And spending time with that and exploring that.
And her mods as well.
And her mods, right? Like that's a lot more in the 6th season than it is in the 6th book. But you can see how they would have picked up on those things. But I think if those things come up in the books after this now, they're going to feel more heart-wrenching because she's solidified having a place. She feels like she's earned it on her own merit, away from the shadow of her father.
And her own choices. Yeah.
In the shadow of her own choices still. But she's not defined by those things like I feel like end of season 6 Clarissa still was.
Were you disappointed that this is probably the book with the least amount of Amos stuff in it? Like, he's here. Don't get me wrong, he's here.
Barely in it. He's barely in it, and I'm not disappointed. Like I was saying before about how it like overlays and interlocks character stuff. I still get to see Amos a bunch, even though I'm not in Amos's shoes and it's not a story about him. He's there, and his voice is still important, but this is so much more about Holden being the captain and him leading the crew and working with the bigger players to try and save the human race.
And
so the fact that I don't get to hear from Amos because, you know, he's doing his job, I'm fine with.
But does that mean, just to pick up on some of that, is that a way of saying that Holden was very tolerable in this book? Because, you know, if we said the same thing in early days of the show about like, well, we can't have time on other stuff because we're spending on Holden finding his place as the leader of the group and blah, 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 and finding it. Like, everyone says, you're really special and you're unique snowflake. We hated that, but that's what this book is doing. But at the same time, I found Holden to be the most enjoyable character because he was the one that I got to know the most in the book.
Yes, and you really appreciate how far he's come from where we met him.
I think it's
and
I just get tangled up on it.
It's not just that. Oh, he's grown up. He's a better person now.
He takes on responsibility.
Yeah, it's like he is a different version of himself. But there are parts of him that still are that Holden. And there are parts of him that he has lost and regained over the course of his journey. And that is okay as well. I really appreciate those conversations that he has with Naomi where she's like, yeah, you don't really have this anymore. But you still have this underlying core part of you that tells you to do this, right? Like the conflict and the complexity of his character and his choices being explored in those conversations with Naomi at various points in this book, where he's just like, I'm not the man that I used to be, and she's like, that is kind of a good thing, but I'm also kind of sad that you've lost this part of you because of the things that we've had to go through.
He's offered at many points the chance or the opportunity or the requirement to become a certain type of figure. He is expected to become the next Fred Johnson. He is compared to Marco. We got that in the show, and I never believed it. The whole, you're like Marco is like, your Holden is the man you pretend to be. I never really bought it because of just how drastically different they are portrayed. Maybe that's just acting, but also I felt it was writing. In this, I understood a lot more. Like Holden doing his goodwill campaign to curry favor and win over the hearts and minds of all involved. And we see how Marco does similar things as well, where he does it for much more tactical and egotistical reasons. He wants people to like him. He wants people to believe he's a brilliant genius and that he's the best of the best. And so he's going to talk and talk and talk. And we see that with Holden, but he's doing it for much more, like noble reasons. But then we see that both of them use these personas as wise pieces of political play. I loved at the end when Naomi asks him straight up, how long have you been thinking about getting Michio Pa to join up and take over the guild? And he's like, oh, well, and he listed back to when Fred Johnson was still alive. And it's like, that was a while ago in the story now. So
yeah,
I like seeing Holden play up that he's this golly gee dumb, farmer boy type guy, that people believe him to just be that earther who has allegiances to the belt, and he plays that up, but he actually has his finger on the pulse of what needs to be done in the politics of it all. And yet he also says, oh man, doing politics for 20 minutes was the most tiring thing I've ever done, boo-hoo. Like, he leans into that, even in his own chapters, to kind of lull you into this idea of like, oh man, Holden is just being pushed to be protagonist man, and he doesn't want to be protagonist man. But then at the end, he's like, actually, guys, I'm fucking great at being protagonist
40
man.
chess, my buddy.
That's entertaining to me. That's the stuff I love about Holden.
I have a question / point of discussion.
Yes.
From that stuff, like kind of building out from it, right? Because Holden is this individual, and he has this mask, he has this character, he has this prestige and reputation that has been built up around him. And I felt like the way that they talked about people seeing Holden and seeing, oh, that's Naomi Nagata.
Mm-hmm.
Like, those are the people from the Rossi crew.
Doesn't matter if you're Alex, though.
Them feeling that reputation, and then the moments where they get to just be people. I felt like that stuff worked better in the book, and I'm not sure exactly why it worked so much better for me here than it did in the show, because a lot of it's the same thing of like people talking about like Holden's reputation and his, patterns of behavior and how people expect certain things of him, but also these other people by association with Holden.
Holden in the show doesn't seem to really, as much as I felt in this book, have as huge of a problem with that stuff in his life. It's more about, oh God, what mission am I on now? Oh, I'm so tired because I've got to save the universe again. I haven't been able to sleep. Where's my coffee? All of that is still present in the books, but I think just because of the nature of the format, we get to know him a lot more. And because he has the most chapters in this book, I walked away feeling like I knew Holden the best out of anyone. I liked him. I thought he was funny in this book. I genuinely laughed at a lot of his point of view.
It does have a lot to do with the time and the space that we're given in the book compared to the show.
I just want to have my little rant. Just because we're talking about Holden.
Ryan's rant time.
What's his fucking problem with Monica? What's the writer's problem with her? I genuinely need an
apology?
No, a chapter.
An apology for Monica?
No. A chapter that is from Monica. Because that will let me know more concretely what the writers think of this character. Because I hate how it comes across so often that the writers are looking down on this character who, when you lay it all out on the table, she's a good person doing the right thing, using her profession to, even in the face of danger, do the right thing, help our heroes, and from the events of other books, is a hero herself. And even in this book, but then we get Holden's like slimy little undercuts of her.
It's like, does he just hate old journalists?
And is it the writers look down on like the journalist type? But then they're willing to like, oh, what about the child soldier who killed billions of people? Can't we have a little moment of pause and think about them? But not Monica. I genuinely would love to know if there's any story where Monica actually gets to have it told from herself. Because I don't know. I don't know in these books if I'm supposed to find Monica a good person or not. Like, if I'm supposed to think of Monica, I'm not saying that they think of her as a villain in any way. No, of course not. But I'm thinking that there's so many moments where the writers will throw in a little jab at something Monica does, and there's they're pushing their glasses up their nose and goes, typical journalists, am I right? They're kind of scum, aren't they? And it's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Especially this war in particular, the journalism aspect is like a huge part of what helps Holden out, and I don't understand what their problem as writers is with Monica. If I'm being unfair, like, is this a case where it's Holden himself has a problem with Monica? Or is it the writers are using the characters to, like, make these things? What do you feel? Now we're 6 books in, we've seen the TV show version where we also asked this question a little bit.
Yeah, I am not sure, and I don't think we will be able to untangle it fully from where we are with what we have. But I am not sure how much it matters if it's coming from the writers or from Holden, because at this point,
are they one and the same?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think there is a difference because they are willing to admit that Holden's a fuck up, that Holden's petty, that he's childish, that he makes emotional decisions, and that he is someone who, I do think that they are aware that Holden is someone who judges people unfairly.
Oh, yeah.
As well
they
as
are
naively.
aware of the imperfections of Holden, even though he's aware of some of them himself, but not others, which makes him, feel more real.
I'll put it like this. Compare this to Fred Johnson. We, for never one moment, have we doubted the integrity of Fred Johnson and what the writers want us to feel about him. Even when Holden is saying out loud, Fred Johnson's a piece of shit that we shouldn't trust, we know that he's wrong. Maybe Fred Johnson wasn't perfect, but we never doubted that.
I will.
But we understood that Holden doubted it.
I will never. Like, I never questioned that Fred was trustworthy and that his word was true, but I also trusted that his morals, his principles, his goals for the belt would come first. So it was never like, oh, they're always going to work together well. It's Fred will do what he says if he's been upfront and said it, right? He will stay true to his word.
But you never.
But if his words and his principles are not aligned, he will go with his principles.
And because of that, because we clearly understand what his principles were, even though we did not get chapters from Fred until this book, we only got one in this book. We always got told about Fred from other people, but we never doubted. But that's what I'm saying is, look at how they handled Fred and how Holden had negative feelings towards him, or even Miller, as well. But look at how they do with Monica. I really don't know. I don't know. I need to have that little rant because she was in this book and she was a fucking hero. And it still came across at the end of the day that Monica was like a self-interested piece of work.
She just did the work that Holden couldn't do because he was busy.
She doesn't even say anything with her words that feel slimy. You know? Like, she never says or really does anything that feels like two-faced. They don't even lean into that. I wish if they're going to say these things, at least lean into it, but I don't feel like they do. But I just had to say it. But did you know that the person that had the second most chapters in this book was Philip? Did you know that?
I didn't know that, but yeah, like I can imagine that because we get a lot of time with Holden, and looking back on it, like the main way that we see Marco's side of things is through Philip.
Philip and Michio Pa are like rivaling for the second and third place most of the book. And Philip, I wanna hear you talk about Philip because we could never stop talking about Philip in the show. He was always someone that was like, oh, when he showed up in an episode, we could talk about that character alone for maybe like an hour straight because there was always something there.
Even if it was just, the actor is good. Why did they not just age up the character?
Yeah, we could talk about that for another year. But
I will talk about that forever.
So,
forever.
How's book Philip for you?
I feel sadder about book Philip's fate than I did show Philip.
I feel more happy in the show.
Yeah.
Like, he found his place, he took his mother's name, and off he goes.
Yeah.
More triumphant.
But I feel like the show kind of focused on that part of things more. The fact that he's like, oh, my dad's fucking insane. I've got to get out of here, right? Whereas the decision for Philip to leave in the book feels much more motivated by he does start feeling guilty. He sees what his father is doing and how he is doing it and grows despondent first.
Yeah. I am on the opposite end of you yet again with this. I didn't get much of a sense of Philip as a character in these books. I didn't find him as stimulating as a person. I didn't feel the thought exercise as well as the feelings like I did with the show counterpart. He never challenged me as a character. I just felt like he just progressed through his story in a way that was very lethargic to me. I didn't feel like the guilt that he started to come to terms with was as motivated as in the show. And again, like, he had a strong relationship with his father in both versions of the story, but I feel like in this version of the story, they spend so little time together, yet they also spend so much time together. I don't know, there's just this thing where I had a hard time listening to his chapters because they often felt the same to me. It just felt like, okay, it's another moment where Marco does something insane, and Philip just goes, well, that was weird. Or, did anyone else see that? It very much hit the same note for me.
Yeah. Well, I guess I didn't think about those chapters a lot about us learning about Philip. It was us seeing where Philip's at and what Marco is doing from Philip's point of view. So the slow nature of things eating away at him worked better for me because I was coming at them from a different point. But I agree with you that without that kind of lens that I sort of accidentally had, those chapters feel very much the same. Of it's our check-in point with Marco, we're seeing it, and Philip goes, yeah, that's weird, but goes along with it until he doesn't.
Look, the Philip chapters were still enjoyable because Marco is a very entertaining character.
Oh yeah.
He's such a piece of shit.
Such a prick.
The way he manipulates people in this book feels so showboaty.
It's just like
he's like
it's like
he's
how
not subtle
people,
about it.
How are people not seeing this? Why is nobody fucking immune to this bullshit?
That's why I loved Anderson Dawes' chapters the most, because that was his entire point of view of like, how the fuck are we letting him get away with this? And it's because he gets results. People can question and people can and ah, and eventually we see the breaking point with people like with Mitchell, like with Philip, like with Anderson Dawes, like with Rosenfeld, all of them. They have their breaking points. But you also see why people do take the abuse, why people do take the showboaty nature of Marco, why people do ignore the
way that they
oafishness of his character.
What he can do for them as well, and that's part of it. Side note, I want to say...
Yes?
I never got used to Rosenfeld being a man.
I know.
Every time they used he, him pronouns, I was like, wait, what?
I liked when he was a statuesque blonde lady in the show.
I did too.
That character was good in both versions, though. In very different characters, and very different outcomes for characters, but both were... this is like how I felt about Cortez being included in the book and not in the show, where it's like both versions have an outcome that I find as engaging as the other, where I can't say, oh, one is better than the other. Like, out of these two characters, the one from the show and one from the book, I'm not going to say one's better than the other. No, I like them both equally, but they were both they were both very different. Well, I kind of like the one, obviously we like the one from the show, but to give the one in the book credit,
I respect him. But I like her better.
Well, I like that he didn't feel like he was crazy.
Yeah.
She felt a little
bit unhinged.
A little bit like a maniac.
Yeah.
Like she is almost a female Marco, but obviously not as dialed up. This guy, he felt opportunistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the guy that when they basically say the Nuremberg trials are happening for him and Anderson Dawes at the end, you're like, yeah. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see him defend himself on the stand there. But Philip, I found it an interesting choice that he didn't really we didn't get too much reflection from him about his mother and how much she swayed him in the 5th book to make the choices he is making now. That he says it the right amount where it's like it nudged him, and now he's looking at it.
The seed was planted, which feels more organic in the way that they do it in the book rather than the flashbacks in the show. You know what I mean? I can't remember if they do literal flashbacks or not.
Well, they have Marco and Naomi as young people in the
but
Flash.
like the echoing of Naomi telling him, "Hey, your dad's like this, and one day you'll realize
he would never die for you, but he would let you die for him." Michio Pa is the other character who has like a majority of the book. And we did mention earlier that Drummer in the show is an amalgamation of many characters, including Michio Pa.
Yes.
And we said in the 3rd book, Michio Pa was good until she basically disappears for most of the book because it would be kind of an inconvenience to have her in the story. Well, don't worry. Here she is. She takes up a lot of time and she has a lot of characters supporting her and surrounding her. And I'm going to break some hearts. I did not give a fuck about Michio Pa. I did not give flying fuck about Michio Pa. I'm breaking hearts. I know people love her. I didn't love her.
No. I didn't give a fuck. I was like, oh, Pa, you're doing your best and you're important and that's why you're here. But you're a means to an end, honey. You're a means to an end. And that means that a lot of your stuff, it doesn't have the same depth that other characters get. Even other characters that we get like a, similar amount of time on or are a similar like tier, right? But she's there for function more than anything, but that's how she gets drawn into the plot, and it makes sense. But it makes me care less about her as an individual, even though they have all of this stuff with her polycule and her multiple spouses and the way that works and their relationships with each other and
her being a woman is also very important too, because Marco like uses all of the misogyny powers to like devalue her worth in the cosmos. Like he really does lean into like, well, she's just a pathetic woman. Who gives a fuck? And that actually does like hurt her feelings in ways. Although I do not like this character, I also don't see eye to eye with you on what you're saying either, because I do think they go out of their way to try and humanize her and make her more than the function.
Like there's character development and stuff, but it okay. So like the way that I kept on feeling about her chapters is that we are swapping to her, and this thing's happening. And the focus is in what's happening. Right? But I felt like with the majority of the other characters, when we get their point of view, it's focused on how are they feeling and what's going on and how are they going to respond to that situation. But because a lot of the time when we're with Pa, she's in captain mode and purely captain mode.
Ah, man, it's so crazy because I agree, but I also don't agree with you, because I found what left me listless about her character was they spent so much time trying to do the exact thing you're saying they're not doing.
Yes, they really try. They really try, and there's a lot of conversation around it. So like it's not like they're going that's just what she is, when we're gonna leave her being flat, right? That's not the case. But It's the motivations behind things that I am perceiving.
Yeah.
That are impacting the way that I am viewing and engaging with her story. I also feel like I didn't care about her as much because it feels like the story...
They're telling you.
Yeah, like it's happening. Like even though she has agency, it's weirdly like things are happening to her. She's not happening to the story. The story's happening to her. Because like she's there, she's going, oh, okay, Marco's not working out, I'm gonna go this way. And we get her interiority and we really understand who she is and why she's doing what she's doing. But in the back of my head, it's just like, well, yeah, but she was pegged for this role by Holden before he even knew what it was going to be like and that he would have the power to, help make that decision. And it's just like, okay, well, I don't...
She's a piece, even for Holden.
And I don't know what that means going forward as well. Like, are we going to see more from her perspective?
Oh, yeah, I imagine.
Or is she going to step back like Avaslara did for a book or two, where it's not so much from her, but she's mentioned?
I think she's too big of a character now. Like, she's going to be in charge of Medina. Like, I think that's going to be too important. We still have to deal with Laconians. Now she'll have to deal with Laconians. Like, that's the type of thing I'm imagining. Don't know. Haven't read. Don't know the story. I also found that she was just such a mopey character. Like, I'm supposed to be excited that she's going to help fuck over Marco, but most of the chapter is her going, oh, jeez.
I wish I didn't have to do this. Like, I wish.
Oh, man. The TV show does this. And I felt more invested about it also because I already knew Drummer at that point. So I like Drummer, so I want to know more about this.
And you want her to be happy. She's gone through enough and she's fought this battle and fought that battle. And now she's facing up in this arena as well.
But we get a moment where it's like, oh no, I could die right now. And what will happen to my polycule? And I just didn't care. But then you get a moment with a character who only has 3 chapters in this book, Prax, where his last chapter is him being dragged in for an interrogation. And he is like, well, I'll die. And my daughter will most likely never know what happened to me. And it fucking broke my heart.
Yep.
It broke my fucking heart. That whole chapter was like the biggest nightmare chapter. I genuinely was worried that he was going to die. Even though, having watched the show, I know that he doesn't die, at least in this story. I was worried, well, I actually don't know because he only appeared in one scene in the show. Maybe he dies here. I was that riveted and I was that emotionally invested.
He's done the job that he'd done by the time that we saw him in the show. So, maybe they could, maybe they would. Like, you don't get the feeling that they would pull that punch. And I was so invested, I wasn't thinking about it in terms of, I know that he's safe. It's, what's this book
capable of doing with? I mean, we've already killed
what this book gonna
people.
do. I knew that it was capable of it. And that being a consequence. But weirdly enough, the thing that I went, oh, he's not going to die. Chapters from his perspective.
Miller. Didn't work out well for Miller, did it? But
True. But like typically.
Or Bull.
Typically.
I understand your point.
Typically.
I think this is a case where, like I mentioned with Clarissa, they established the character so well in a previous book that I am invested. While with Michio Pa, she was a somewhat interesting side character in a book filled to the brim with interesting characters. So she gets her time here, and I didn't feel as much as, say, Prax, where Prax gets much less to do. But every single thing he had to say or do in the book, I found to be some of the highlights of it because I love Prax. I loved him in the second book.
Oh,
I love him in the show. I love him here.
Would fucking love to see that actor do the interrogation
I
scene.
know. That's such a sad thing about the sixth season being so short is I would have loved to have seen this.
And him being
and he would have pulled it off. He's that good of an actor.
No, but like him having to explain afterwards how he confessed and they didn't do anything.
And they let him go because he's just such a nice guy.
He did it in a way that they didn't understand.
Well, he did it. No. He did it in the exact way they understood. They just know his character so well of being such a nice person. He would never do anything like the guy who famously worked with James Holden to help take down Mao. Yeah. He wouldn't do anything like that again.
You wouldn't have sent it off. You made the partition, but you didn't do it, did you?
You must have been taken advantage of. Poor baby. Can we hold your hand?
Give us some names. We'll look into it a little bit more.
Can we stroke your cheek? Can we cook you food? I mean, it was
cooking pancakes.
That was so good. That was
such a good little detail, and it made sense, and it made like the two daughters, like his daughter and his stepdaughter, feel real again.
Yeah.
Not just he's a dad and he's got to protect his children, but they felt real. And the way that he talked about their interactions and the way that there was joy in that and frustration in that.
And sadness.
Like, to get at what you were saying before about how, like, Prax as a dad feels so real, so solid, so understandable. Even though, like, I'm not a dad. I'm not a parent.
And I'm not a parent who literally traveled across the galaxy to save my daughter from a sci-fi conspiracy. And then, within a couple of years, still have the realization that many people do when their loved ones start to grow up, which is they're going to become their own person and won't need me anymore. Like, that was really heartbreaking. Of like, Prax has done all of this stuff.
She already doesn't need him in the same way that she did.
And it's just a part of life, but there's a sadness there. You go, oh man, I was there for you when you didn't have her in your life, and you did everything in the universe to go get her. And now you're at that stage where just this is how it goes. Of she's growing up, and she's getting further away from you because she is growing up. But that doesn't mean that you aren't close and you aren't connected and you aren't like you love each other or anything. It just means that's just how it is. She is becoming a person.
And that is what's meant to be, in the way that he understands that, and you understand that the way that he thinks about parenting and the way that he thinks about the world is so connected to the way that he thinks about his work.
And we always said that one of the strengths of the writers in their style was when they tackled theology, religion. But something that I want to really praise about the books, more than the show, is parenthood.
Yeah.
We get Naomi talking about the failures of her being a parent. We get Prax worried about, the fear of being taken away from his daughter, or her growing up. We get Anna talking about like all of these changes and her wife, of course, talking about all of these changes in their family dynamic and their situation and where they're going and how it affects them as parents. Like, all of that is like really even Christian talking about, like, Ashanti. And like Ashanti's trying to push her to retire and trying to push her to do these things. And she's like,
so much better in the book.
And she has like these brilliant little moments
even
where
her
it's
mourning her husband is so much better because you don't have the election bullshit that.
Yeah. And you get these moments where it's like, oh, the grandchild tells Christian that Ashanti loves you and blah blah blah. And they have this healthy, dysfunctional way of expressing love to one another, and it feels so true to life and to families. And there's just so much about the books.
When Christian's just like, oh, if I let myself be close to her, she would be my favorite because she's the most like me. I love that moment so much.
And it's a huge departure from the second book because her son was her favorite. And now she's got to this point where it's no longer purely like, no one will ever hold a candle to that, or I can only stop when he comes home. Like now it's like, I've lost my husband, the planet is in ruins, and I still have
to hold on to what I've got.
But also, I still have to keep them away, because if I have them too close, I'll become too much of a person, and the job that I do requires me not to be a full person, which Fred talks about. Fred is like, and that's what Holden resents, is like, oh, becoming an idea, becoming a symbol. And I want to know, as we wrap up here,
and putting in so much effort to make it look like he's not putting in any effort as well. I feel like that irritates Holden as well.
Oh, of course. As we begin to wind down, Fred Johnson dies in this book, and it's different to how it is in the show.
Very different.
It's what they used for Alex in the end in the show, and it's done at the most inopportune time where they need Fred, really, really need Fred alive, and he dies. While in the show, it's like, well, Fred gets taken down, and it's very important that he gets taken down, but it's not like they really, really, really needed Fred at that exact moment in time.
Only Fred can do this.
Exactly. What do you like? Do you have a preference, or how do you feel about the way that Fred is taken care of in this book and like the aftermath?
I think I like the book version better, partially because it is like real life messy kind of thing while having the elevated narrative tension. And I really appreciated the way that they dealt with the aftermath of his death and the cleaning of the body and saying goodbyes and the, state wake and him being put through the recycler. Like, all of those things felt like they had a moment to pause and to be solemn and to be respected. And we get them from these different points of view, which really highlight how much Fred Johnson's absence is going to be felt, but also how people and the universe fill the gaps that he left, right?
Oh, yeah. I was going to say that, yeah.
It's not, oh my God, Fred Johnson's not here, everything's going to fall apart. And it's not Holden's just going to replace Fred and be who Fred was. It's like, yeah, Holden's going to take this part, and Michio kind of takes this part, and,
Christian takes a little bit of this.
Yeah.
It gets divided.
Yeah. It's not a one-to-one. And that's interesting because, it's a lot of the time when you are feeling grief, you want it to be that everybody's world has just fallen apart because yours has. And there's this added sense of that because it's not just Johnson as an individual that has been lost, but it his political power and what he represents has been lost, and they don't know if they're going to be able to recapture that. Whereas in the show, since we have that scene with him and Holden before he dies, it feels more like he gets to pass the torch to Holden.
I agree. I also like that in the book, it's just a natural repercussion of how travel works,
and we've
just
been
it's
being
dumb.
told a lot.
It's just bad luck.
That's a potential thing that's going to happen.
Yes, but we haven't actually really seen it. I also like about it is it further feeds into that Marco's successes often do come from chance and luck. That not everything is this wise move, and he's not always successful, because in the show, he takes down so many people like Fred and Earth and all this stuff within like click of the fingers like that. It's really well organized. It makes him really smart, really successful. But in this book series, he gets he gets these victories and wins, but they're like after all of these failures.
Yeah.
And then these wins.
The plans within plans within plans.
And this is one where Fred died. In part because of Marco's shenanigans, but not really.
No.
And then Marco has to try and spin it like, see?
And I find that
win.
way more satisfying than the direct thing in the show.
Where Fred Johnson gets assassinated.
Yeah, because it's just like, that was Marco's initial plan, and his initial plan works in the show and it doesn't in the book, and I find it more interesting.
And it makes it so when he starts to like grind his teeth and bitch about like, I should have taken the Martians down more, those fuckers, and that Fred Johnson, even though he died, I didn't get to kill him myself. Like, it makes it so when he's at the end of his rope and he's acting like a wild animal, all the more satisfying and all the more true. Oh, because just mentioning Marco again, his death, awesome.
Fucking great.
Love that it was from like his eyes and him talking about like it in vivid detail as his mind starts to also go.
Why can I see molecules? I shouldn't be able to see molecules.
But he
what
also
the fuck
understands.
Is this?
But he also understands. Yeah, it's great. Loved all of that.
I really enjoyed the way that plan comes together in the book.
Yeah, there's a lot more time.
Overload the ring gate, and it made more sense to me now.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's just like the way that they explain it, and the way that they explain it, that they know what but not why, and how that's like, sometimes just the case in science, felt like much clearer in the book than it did in the show, even though they explain it in a very similar way from memory.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I feel like I'm ready to say that although this book was not a favorite of mine, I think being able to talk about it a bit more has given me a lot more appreciation for it. I just needed less characters telling me their stories. I would have, especially because the way that we've increased characters in the books has made a lot more sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, the first book, we're going to just have the two. Bounce back and forth and, prologue, epilogue. And then the second one, okay, we'll have a couple more. Earth, Mars.
It's like, are they going to just keep on building out?
Earth, Mars, Rocinante, fair enough, makes a lot of sense. Ganymede, makes a lot of sense. And then, the planet, we're going to deal with the planet and everyone who's on the planet. And then, the whole Rocinante crew makes a lot of sense. And now this book, it's like fucking, I don't know, Anderson Dawes. You remember him?
Yeah, and this one guy on the station and this other guy.
This one OPA person that you don't even know. Like, I just looked at the chapters and I'm like, who the fuck was this character? Oh, they're an OPA person? Sure. I don't remember Vanderkaust. I'm so sorry. I'm sure. I don't remember that chapter.
I liked his stuff and, like, how he's just kind of trying to live his life while also, being under the Free Navy and dealing with Marco's bullshit and being like, well, I guess I gotta.
You know what he says? It's a living. And then just frowns. This book was good. Do you have any ideas of where your rankings are now with these books?
Ooh.
They change up in my mind as we get further away from them as well.
Yeah.
Like, what are my long-term views on these books? I
feel like it's in the middle for me. Like, even though I enjoyed it, I found it a really solid book. I wasn't as riveted and demanding that we listen to chapters. Like, we took
a little while,
a good break from it, and I wasn't like itching to get back to it the way that when we've been listening to other ones and, like, you know, life gets in the way and I'm like, but I want to.
Yeah.
I didn't have that same oomph or like drive to continue listening when I have with other books, but I was still wanting to engage with the story. So that's why I'm like, it's somewhere in the middle. It's still a yum for me. Is it a yum for you?
Yes, I would say so. It's both refined and messy, and isn't that interesting? Isn't that just interesting? I find that
the next book.
The next book is the 7th book.
Mm-hmm.
It is the start. No, we're not up to Leviathan. We did Leviathan. There's Leviathan Wakes and Leviathan Sleeps. I don't know. I don't know the name of all these books. So I try not to look too far ahead, but I just know from just, you know, browsing a bit. Leviathan Wakes is the first one. Leviathan Falls. That's the last one. But the next one is Persepolis Rising, which I know nothing about. I know one thing. I lie. I tell a lie.
What?
Well, I know one thing because it's the reason everyone gives for why it makes sense that they stopped at the 6th book and didn't go to the 7th.
I don't know that.
Okay. We will find out together next time. Everyone, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for still joining us along our journey of the Expanse as we explore through it. We shall be back at some point in the future to discuss more of these books.
Are you going to acknowledge my comments?
If I acknowledge it, then you'll have an answer. So if I just keep breezing past you, will you not take that as an answer? No, Rachel, we're going to suddenly have a new main character, and their name is...
Gaunt Belter?
Oh! You said it! You said it!
God damn, he said. How does she do this all day, every day? That was maybe 20 minutes start to finish, and I already feel like I should dip my brain in bleach.